Welcome back to Atmosphere and Conversation. I'm your host today, Kate Demure. Davisha is out. She's working hard, taking care of her family. You will see the redhead next week. I want to say happy Monday to everyone. My weekend was well. And what is it? February 1st? Black History Month. Yes! We'll have more details about that next week. We'll have a little script. And we'll do Today in History next week. Tonight there's no cocktails, just water. I think we should have a break, celebrate the sobriety. And today we're going to talk about that 4-letter word, love. It is in the air. Cuffing season's almost over, and hey, everybody going to get their tax return. So, hey, if you're living with somebody, you're probably going to get put out. So you might want to think your thoughts and get ready for March, because you about to expire. To whom it may concern. Oh, that was my own joke. I guess no one laughed about that. Anywho, other notes for here today. We want to talk about love, about that strong feeling, that connection, that affection you may have for someone in your life. And we're going to tit for tat on that with my guest we'll have here shortly. So right now we'll take a quick break. Welcome back, Atmosphere and Conversation. This is Kate Demure here. And we have Mr. Gregory Meriweather.
Hello.
Hey! Greg hangs the veil, but that's okay. Greg, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about you.
Greg Meriweather, Indianapolis native. What else can I say about it? Very busy right now. I have a show called Black on Black, which is on RadioNext.tv. Also have it on Spreaker.com under the Black on Black radio show. Very active, staying very active in the community. Just doing a lot of community work now. So just trying to be a trailblazer for our people. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
You're trying to get your name in them history books, aren't you? You're trying to set the stage. Okay.
Yeah, trying to work on that.
Good.
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about love? What is love to you?
What is love to Greg Meriweather? Thinking about when I think about love, the first thing that comes to mind is a scripture where it says how can you say that you love a God that you've never seen, yet hate your brother that you see every day? And for me, love is getting to the point of when you look at God's creation, you're able to treat it in a manner that God would treat it, in a way that says, I'm forgiving, in a way that says, I know you're flawed, but I can figure out a way to give you my best. And so when I look at love, I think that it goes beyond what's normally said about love, as it relates to us in a human form. And I really try to figure a way to find the type of love that God gives to us.
Oh, that's wonderful. So heartfelt, touching. Hits me right here.
Hits you. Okay. That's what's up. That's what's up.
So, love, relationships.
What about
Tell
that?
me about it.
I think to love someone, especially unconditionally, I think it's one of the most difficult things to do, yet one of the most easiest things to do.
Difficult? How so?
I think it's difficult for the simple fact that you're trying to coexist, and you're constantly trying to figure out what's always evolving. And when you're in a relationship, that person should be evolving, that person should be growing, that person should be changing. Because one thing that I've seen with love is that as we get older, certain things will change. Your features will change. We may gain weight. We may lose hair. Our physical self may change in health. You may find that you don't have the same finances and live in the same neighborhood or whatever. But when you find a way to say that I love you in spite of it all, I believe that that's when you've reached a point of a relationship that's special. And that's when you can really look at it and call it love, because You know, it amazes me at my age, at 42. You know, as you get older, you think about when you were 20 and you were spry and you know, physically intense and just really wanting to exude yourself through sexually, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you look at people who are 70 and 80, yet they still have that glimmer in their eyes to say, man, I look at that female, you know, like she's the hottest thing on the planet. But we're not sexually active, but we're still sexual in a sense, because we have this thing of saying, I find this sexual beauty in you because of what you've been through with me, how you've grown with me, how you've labored with me, and not only that, how you've stayed with me. And I think that when people get to that point of love, that they've truly found something.
Oh my. Good stuff. All right, Greg. Took me back and had me in a moment. Nice. It sounds like a fairy tale story.
You know, I think that it could be. I think that, you know, stick-to-itiveness is one of the hardest things to do. But I think that when you find someone, you have to, especially if you decide to get married, you have to look at someone and realize that it's you, and it's you live and in your face. And there's not many times where you can look at you and say, I hurt myself.
Right.
And that's how people should look at these relationships. They should look at it from a perspective of saying, you know what, I get to see what I get to live and indirect get to see what I've done to myself. Instead of looking at it and like, you feel the pain, I don't.
Right.
Because if two become one in flesh, if she's not feeling well, then ain't nothing gonna feel well, and vice versa. And if he's hurting, then she's hurting. And if he's broke, then she's broke. And if she's broke, then he's broke. And I think that that's what people need to get to, because I think that once you look across from a person and see yourself, you're not trying to leave yourself. And I think that when we get to a point of realizing that when you decide to leave something, you're leaving part of you somewhere. Mm-hmm. And when you decide to jump out and do something else, you're jumping out and leaving yourself somewhere. And so we don't do it to self. I don't say, let me split Greg Meriweather in half. I say, let me take my whole self and do what the whole self does. And that's what we need to do when we look at the other person we're dealing with.
Good information. Good stuff. So, do you feel like love is more of a feeling? Do you think of it more as an action, an emotion?
It is a gambit of everything.
Yeah.
But I think that in order for love to be its best, it has to be action. I think you'll get a lot of different feelings. But I think that when you get to the point of really loving someone, you'll do what's necessary. And that doesn't mean you'll do it immediately. Because one thing about love that people have to understand is that the distribution of love. You know, I always say that love is like a warehouse. It has to be in you in order for it to be shipped out. And if you're empty, then what are you doing? You know, so it's a distribution. Love is a distribution center, and you have to have love inside of you, because it takes something to say, you know, I'm gonna work hard at this because I do it for me.
Okay.
You know, and I think that we have to get to a point where we say the action part is gonna take place, because, like I said, it's not instant, and it takes some time to get to a point where you're exhibiting that special kind of love, that love that'll cause you to stay with someone for 70 years, 50 years, 60 years. But that other person is patient. You know, and I love the fact that that's one of the first things that was said in the Bible about what love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. You know, and so when we look at that, it's like love is like, man, you jacked up. Yeah, I love this jacked up dude. And I love the fact that, you know, when we get to the point of realizing that, I think that will change the dynamic of the world when we start realizing that we're all jacked up. And that's why it says, how can you say you love me but you hate this guy?
Right.
He's like, that's a lie, because it's my creation. And if God can look at me and say, I can still get this flawed dude up every day and give him an opportunity to get it right, why can't I?
So when you think of love, you say you're what, 42?
42.
Okay. Love versus
Lust.
Lust.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see more of lust, what, in your 20s?
Oh, man. I think that you still will always have a lustful eye.
Yeah?
I think that until you get to the point of doing something about it, I think that you'll always be able to. You're built. This thing sins.
Right.
You know, and that's what people need to understand is this body wants to do what it wants to do. And that's why there's a difference between the flesh and the spirit. This thing sins. This thing wants to sin. This thing wants to do wrong. So yeah, if Taraji walks past and Janet Jackson may take off a little more or something like that, then you're going to look. You're going to look. It's okay to window shop. It's like, just don't pick up the product. If you already got one. You know? So I think that, but I think that it's such a nice thing when you can take that inner drive, that hormonal thing that's jumping off with you and direct it in a place where it works. It's nothing like, it's like a house. It's like a car. It's nothing, when you get in your car and you put the key in the ignition for those who still have keys and it doesn't turn over, it's a problem. Because in your mind, this key is supposed to work every time.
Right.
So imagine if you can go a lifetime, and that key always works, and you find that person, that door, that woman, and it's amazing how God made a man with a key and a woman with the. It's amazing how all of a sudden it's like, imagine your key working every time you put it in. Imagine that every time, never failed, always said, that's my door.
Damn, it's perfect life, sounds like.
It's my door. It's my door. Every time I turn the knob, it opens. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's supposed to be. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be every time that this happens. That's why the Bible's like, never neglect that person. You don't neglect you. If you're hungry, you're going to feed yourself. If you're thirsty, you're going to quench your thirst. So never neglect that person, because all you're doing is doing it to yourself. And I think that's what love is. I think lust is a whole different thing. I think lust is just physical.
Yeah,
you know?
It is.
But when you get it right, it's like when that physical meets that emotional, meets that spiritual, and all of it comes in together, I think that will make you want to get up every day and say, you know what, I can do this for the rest of my life.
Really?
Because I've reached the point of what's the recipe?
That's the recipe. Go ahead, break it down one more time.
Well, yeah, when it all comes together, it's a special thing. But you have to get to a point. Men, it's like we have our roles, and we have to get to the point where we acknowledge our roles in this thing called life, and go and look at the manual. And that's the special thing. There's a manual, and I tell people this about the Bible. It's the only manual that crosses all models and makes. It's the only one that's ever been made. It crosses every model and make. It doesn't matter if you're tall, short, fat, black, skinny, whatever. This is a book you can look at and say it matches however I'm made. And if you get to that point and you get into that and you say, well, what's my role as this man? Then I already know. And I believe that if I do whatever it is in that role, then it'll work. And so men have to start seeking the treasure. Women have to act like the treasure. Because it doesn't say...
Wait a minute. You're going too far now. Women need to act as
be the treasure.
Be the treasure.
Absolutely.
Elaborate on that a little more.
Being the treasure, because if it says that, for a man who finds a wife finds a good thing, and it's like talk about her being as a treasure, then at that point it's like you have to be one, a treasure is found.
Wait a minute. Because see, we gonna go into it. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna stick a pin in this.
I got you.
We'll be right back. We're on. Okay. Well, welcome back to Atmosphere and Conversation. I'm your host, Kate Demure. We're here with Mr. Meriweather, and he was diving into the treasure.
Yeah, treasure.
Go ahead, speak on it.
Briefly, but I was just touching on the roles and if a man is finding a wife, there are certain characteristics that he should be looking for, and then the treasure, you always hear the argument, or you know when it gets heated, you always hear, you know, men say, wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord, and women always say, well, men, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Right. The thing about that is, to get both groups correct, both have to be aligned with what it is that they were designed to be. And I think that when we look at the treasure, we have to understand that, you know, the virtuous woman, she was working. It said that, you know, she didn't eat of the bread of idleness. She was worth more than rubies. It says, you know, she was pretty much aligned with what God had designed her to be. She was not looking for a man. And I think that is the biggest challenge that we face today, is that you hear so many women say what they're looking for, and not being diligent in their craft. And when you're being diligent in your craft, that means that by the time you are found, it's not hard work to get in your role, because you're already doing it. And that doesn't mean you're out there making money. It goes far beyond it. It's one, because that's why when you go into Proverbs 31 and you get down into the text, it says, many women have done noble things, but she surpasses them all. So there are women out here, yeah, she's great at this and great at that and great at this, but this woman right here, she passes all of them for the simple fact that she's aligned. She's doing what she was designed to do. So yes, she may have to be a helpmeet at some time and go out and make a couple of dollars, but she's already worked on learning how to cook. Oh yeah, she hung around and learned how to be a mother when it wasn't even her kids. She just did some things to get her in the role of practicing. You know, she wasn't, you know, she learned how to get to a point of dealing with adversities, you know, because she modeled herself after certain things to get herself ready for when that guy finds her. And that guy on the treasure hunt, you don't just, and this is for the fellas, and this is just keeping it real, you don't just go, archaeologist does not just go dig every hole up. I will repeat that. Yeah. He doesn't go and dig up every hole to find treasure. He does hard, thorough work. He goes and examines the lay of the land. He goes and says, I believe it's here. And 9 times out of 10, he understands the expense of doing it wrong. He understands that if I dig here, this could mess up the entire project. So I have to be strategic in finding where the treasure is. So I'm not just going and digging up every hole again. So get to the point that if you're gonna do your thing and you're gonna find your treasure, do your job and go and be in the right place at the right time, and then you'll get yourself aligned where you can begin doing your work as an archaeologist and find that treasure.
Well, all right. Since you put it that way, I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
We've had many discussions about this.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So, do you think that when people are searching for love, not searching, but just, you know, looking for a mate, does it matter where you meet them, or?
I don't know if it's a matter of where you meet them, if your mind is right. Okay. Because there's nothing wrong with having a good time and being out and you know, maybe getting you some cocktails and hanging with the girls, but at the same time, it's like you have to. The whole key to the experience is getting prepared. You know, it's like, you know, you've got to be in a situation where you're saying that if I were a woman who desired a husband, then I'd be a woman who desired to be a wife. You know, I've said this 1,000 times. There are more women focused on being women than there are women focused on being wives. It's a different task. You know, you hear a lot of people give a lot of advice on being married, but they don't understand that being married means that when I get up, it's not as easy to run away as it is if I was just dating you. There's a lot of litigation that goes into splitting that. There's a lot of counseling that goes into splitting that. And not only that, it's a lot of pain when you go into splitting that, because it is taking this, at this point, it's taking yourself and splitting it in half. And anybody knows that if you go into biology, what it is like to cut anything, any living being in half, there's something to it. It's not just an easy slice. It's some work. It's surgery. So I can get up and say I'm done with her if I'm not connected.
Right.
You know, and that's where the whole two become one, because I'm connected at that point. And that's a hard split.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you say, or what advice do you have for the woman who should try to model themselves and become a wife?
You know, sisters, I would just tell the sisters to, you know, really set yourself up to be above the rest. You know, if it's gonna be any kind of battle, have a battle to be above the rest. There are so many, you know, there are so many women who are just alike. Unfortunately, we don't look and see, you know, the ones who set themselves apart. I think we all, men and women, need to get to the point where money is not so relevant. Whereas if I want a person, I just want a person.
Right.
I don't all the attributes and all that is a whole nother thing. You know, when we look and let me just say this, I'm gonna keep it real. If you chasing after a 40-year-old who's into Jordans, you gonna get a kid. I'm just gonna keep it real. If it ain't, you know, because at some point it's like it's time to grow up and get out of, you know, the foolish things.
Right.
If you got a man who is out there waiting in line all night, all day to get a pair of Jordans, then you know what you're working on. And not only that, I wouldn't want that female.
I think that speaks volumes.
You know, because it's like you committed to something. Your commitment is off. Your commitment is off. I don't know a guy in the world that's got anything worth me waiting all night for. Not one.
Preach.
I don't know a man in the world that got anything that will make me wait all night and day to get what he got. Not one. That's just Gregory Meriweather speaking. But I see guys do it all day. I see the video game guys. I see the whole nine. And you know, but that goes back into, you know, if you are a single mother, raise the man that you married. If that's the case, if his daddy ain't there, raise the guy that you were married. Don't hurt your sister. Don't hurt this young sister by giving her a product you wouldn't want.
Right.
And then looking like, girl, I don't know what's wrong with him. I can tell you what's wrong with him. What's wrong with him is he was treated like a king when he wasn't. And then all of a sudden you expect him to go and provide for someone where he has lived a life of not providing for himself. When the mama's the alarm clock, when the mama is the maid and the mama is the chef, you know, he don't take out the trash. And then by the time he's 18, mama's still going to get the car wash and clean the car out and getting the gas and all this kind of stuff. Mama gets out and pumps her own gas. But then all of a sudden, by the time he's of age and ready to get married, he don't know nothing about providing for no woman.
Okay, so
He's had a woman provide for him for his entire life, and that's his expectation.
So they're going to model after
They will model, listen,
what they desire, what they want.
we live what we learn.
Okay. Well, what about the man and woman in church and love?
Church and love, I think it's the most difficult time for it, because if you do anything that's tangled up in God, you're going to get attacked by the enemy. So that's why you look and you find that 60% of marriages end in divorce. For the simple fact that you look and you say, why? Because you've got all these different avenues. You've made divorce easier than getting married. So at the point of you looking and saying, I'm ready to get out, then it's provided. Okay. So because, you know, when I tell this story often about going to a wedding, and for the first time, you know, shout out to my girl Shannon, I went to her wedding, and it was the first time I actually really listened to the vows. And when I listened to it, I was just like, this is pretty intense. Because when it asked the question, if there anyone here that doesn't see these two fit to be married, speak now. And then it gives a word that we don't even pay attention to, and it says forever hold your peace. And forever means eternal. It means she ain't calling her mama to talk about him. Her mama ain't calling her auntie to talk about him. He ain't talking about her to his boys and his mama. It's like, forever hold your peace. It's like, this is supposed to be a situation where if I got a problem with you and you got a problem with me, we need to go to the Trinity and we need to go talk to God about it. But we don't. We go and talk to this thing that I just talked about, this flesh that's going to say, it don't feel good? Well, quit. It hurts? Well, quit. And when we look at, Christians in marriage, the crazy thing about it is we don't turn to God. You just don't. All of a sudden it's like, I don't feel good and I'm mad at you and I'm not forgiving and this, that, and the other. Then drop down to your knees early in the morning and start praying and say, Lord, forgive me for my sins, but I ain't going to forgive nobody for nothing.
There you have it. This man is full of life, full of love, full of all things. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. Atmosphere and Conversation. And we are discussing love today. Love, relationships, lust. We're talking about it all. So, we want to talk about love and sex. Mm-hmm. Does it go hand in hand? Do you think there's a huge difference?
I think that if it's placed right, it goes hand in hand. I think that one of the biggest things about sex is it's supposed to happen. That's why in the beginning in the garden it said be fruitful and multiply. So at that point we have to look and say you will have the desire for sex. It's just, are you placing your sexual desires in the right place? And I think that's where the issue comes in. Because all of a sudden it's like you can't, too much of anything can be detrimental. And when you, and with us, we look and all of a sudden you may have a sexual appetite that's outside the realm of what it is that you should be doing. A good friend of mine, a pastor, Delbert Watts, we had a good conversation, and he said it's something that men have to break down. And it's like when you decide to get married, it's like you have to take a smorgasbord appetite and condense it to one plate. And you have to get the one plate mentality before you ever get to there. Because you can't bring in your smorgasbord behaviors. Because if you bring in the smorgasbord behavior, you'll be wanting your wife to do turn tricks and all kind of stuff that she ain't used to doing. You want a good one. But then all of a sudden you want to bring what all the bad ones had physically into the relationship. So you got to get to the point, man, of breaking down. When you're ready to say I'm ready to break it down, you're gonna have to push away from the all you can eat spots and get down to having it where you go and have one meal and condense that to one plate. That's it.
Okay. So do you think it can kind of enhance a relationship or hurt a relationship?
Sex. Oh, I believe it could go either way. I think that one thing about sex that people need to get to the point of doing is talking about it, right. and like 50 Shades, and get to the point of being like, this is what I like.
Yeah. Do
you like it? And if they don't, then okay. Now if y'all married, then you say okay. If it's not gonna work and you're not, then it's probably not gonna work. Because one thing I know, and it ain't just, it's not always the men. I know women, when they say I wasn't satisfied, 9 times out of 10 it's over. 9 times out of 10 it's over. Men will keep trying. Because men can get to the point where it's just a little selfish. It's just a selfish knock at the door. But women will be like, listen, if I can't be satisfied by this guy, it's a wrap.
So, sex before marriage.
Mm-hmm. I think.
How do you feel about that? Because it could be a thing of, I don't see anything wrong with it.
I think that I would definitely be one to say that if you can refrain from having sex.
We might have a question for someone out there. Okay.
if you're on the path of trying to live a righteous life, I would venture to say that if you can refrain from doing it, I would say not to do it. It's a very that's a very challenging task for the simple fact that it's natural. One thing that we cannot say about sex, we cannot say it's not natural, because that's your design. You're built to have sex. Period.
Absolutely.
That's just how it is. It's like plugging up a lamp in the wall. That's just how it goes. That's what it's supposed to be. And so again, it's a matter of getting the situation right. That's what Paul said. He's like, if you can get past the sexual desires, then you're good. But 9 times out of 10, most will not be able to get past the sexual desires.
Well, I can see if you are, with someone and you're going to work towards that. Maybe you've been together and y'all are considering marriage. Maybe you want to take a few months of celibacy then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's doable. But Greg, let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been married?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have sex prior to marriage?
Yes.
Okay. Would you have married that individual without having sex with them?
Me, probably not. Honestly, me, probably not. Probably not.
Because that's a big portion. Not saying that all relationships are going to be based upon sex, but it could be a huge issue.
I probably would not have
at some point.
Yeah, but again, if knowing what I know in all truth, if I could have attached, if I could have held myself and got all the way to the altar and got married to a person who held themselves and got all the way to the altar and got married, I think that is the most amazing dynamic you will ever find in a marriage, for the simple fact that they're all they know. They're all they know. And that's special, because all of a sudden you look and say, I grow with you. I ain't never done it. I ain't never tried that. Okay, well, let's try it. You like it? I don't know. Let's try it again. So all of a sudden it's like you look and you say, there's a different dynamic, because what happens is you get a man who's got all these experiences again, who gets a woman who doesn't. And all of a sudden he's trying to take all his experience and put it on somebody that's like, I ain't gonna work.
Overwhelmed.
Or you get a woman who's been out there and she's got all these experiences, and the guy don't want to hear about all them experiences, and she's ashamed to tell him about all her experiences, and then she gets into bed and becomes a different woman than who she truly is. So then all of a sudden you got an issue there.
How could that be an issue?
Because one thing is for sure, I would rather have a person that I know who they are. I want to know who you are. I want to know who you are inside and out. I want to know if you got down and you got with it, let me know that before we say I do, because you never know. I might be like, okay. People tend to get in front of the Lord and say, no, I'm going to hide this from him, but I'm going to marry him. It's like taking a limb and putting it back here and be like, I don't have this arm, although I do. And it's like, so you gotta be real about it when you get to the point of saying, I'm gonna marry you. If you done had many sexual partners and fulfilled a lot of your freaking fantasies, be honest about it. Because I'm telling you, it's gonna come out.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna come out.
Yeah.
It will. Okay, well, complete the sentence for me. I wish I had someone with whom I could share
my innermost secrets. My innermost secrets, because I think that once you find a person who you can share your innermost secrets with, you trust them to a degree where there's something about the natural ability to close your eyes, and then there's something about saying, I'm just going to close my eyes because I know I don't have anything to worry about with this person. It's a difference between I'm going to sleep and I'm falling to sleep. It's two different things. I want a person I can go to sleep with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. What advice do you have for men and women about love?
My advice is to first be honest with yourself. Be real with yourself. Get to a point of loving yourself. And when you can love yourself, I just started a ritual that I did not have, and now I get in the mirror and I talk to me. And I talk to me and I tell me that I'm going to be the best me that I could be. You know, and it's like I'll pray, and then when I go and talk to myself, I look myself square and be like, are you being the best you can be? And if I'm not, then I'm looking at myself and saying I'm not being honest. But there's 9 times out of 10 times out of 10 for me, if I stand and look at myself square in the eyes, I'm going to be real. And I think that when you get to the point of being able to look yourself square, and that person that you choose to be with becomes your mirror, and vice versa. And when they look at each other, they see themselves, and they're like, I ain't got nothing to hide from you. And everything that I know about me, you know about me, and vice versa. I guarantee you, the world won't be ready for that relationship that you two will bring to this world, because it will be something that is unstoppable, because no one will be able to tell you about the person that you go to sleep with every day.
Damn, you heard it here. Really, Greg, where can we find you?
You can find me on the Black on Black show, RadioNext.tv, Black on Black on Spreaker.com. I'll be doing a show called The Gregory Meriweather Show coming up on ViewYouLive.com starting next week. So, you know, I will be with a young lady by the name of Talia, and man, we just really gonna hit it really hard and have a great time, and we look forward to just taking on the city and taking on the world. So that's where we'll be.
I'm excited.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for coming out.
Anytime, I'm glad to be here.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. Welcome back, Atmosphere and Conversation here. We just want to give a couple shout outs here. Say happy birthday this week. I don't have my partner here, so lonely. But Val Tate, you have a birthday this week. Dwayne Fuller, Hope Price Gamble, William Lumpkins, and Eric Armstrong. Happy birthday. Have a wonderful week, and you know, have some cocktails. Yeah, a little Prosecco. Yes, okay, and then today our thought of the day. We're going to talk about love. So love is one of the most profound emotions known to human beings. There are many kinds of love, but most people seek its expression in a romantic relationship with a compatible partner. I would hope that we all would understand ourselves sexually and emotionally. You do want to believe what people say. Believe what they show you, not what they say. And then always protect yourself. Love yourself first, because at the end of the day, love will start with you. That's what we got for you today. Kate Demure, we'll see you next week. Atmosphere and Conversation.